presenter of that approach, Robert Gentry, because he was Seventh-day Adventist or something like that. And so they wanted to do something different. But I don't feel that way. I feel like you should look at the data. If it's the best argument, you should follow up on it. So I've done additional research on it, trying to do that. Well, there's a number of things you could do, a number of ways you could tackle this problem. So I'm not saying that they don't.
They're coming up with basically the same kind of thing, only from a different angle.
Right, but see, from my perspective, it's not as clean, it's not as direct, it's not as powerful an approach. You know, it doesn't immediately nullify these other methods. It doesn't say what is wrong with the other methods at given old age. It just provides additional data. So I think that I think you should go with the most powerful arguments that you have, and that's my opinion. And Robert Gentry, you know, is kind of an interesting fella, and he got himself fired from Oak Ridge by presenting his data in court. He didn't even present it well in court, not as well as it could have been done, but he got himself fired as a result of that, and it's been kind of, you know, going from this job to that job, getting grants and funds from friends and other people. But I think that's a shame the way he ended up. I thought he had a good work. He's now trying to work in general relativity theory, showing what's wrong with general relativity theory. I think he should have stuck with radio halos and continued working. He hasn't really done more work on radio halos in 10 years or more. Yes, sir.
Regarding the cosmic background radiation, the radiated wavelength that you calculated would be the form at the time of emission, would it not? If God stretched out the heavens enough to account for the starlight and time problem,
right,
then it seems the CBR would have to be much, much lower in temperature than what it was at the time of radiation.
Well, you raised some interesting questions. I haven't looked at that, but that should be looked at. I agree with you on that.
And it's this expansion that the cosmologists use to predict what the CBR is. But your analysis ignored the expansion. It just calculated the wavelength at the time of radiation.
It calculates, the wavelength at the time of radiation, and the time of radiation is not the same time for all parts of the universe. So when we look out at the universe, we're seeing the radiation from different times. That may be why the maximum wavelength is a little longer than or the peak might be a little higher than we expect, because when you do the black body radiation, it takes into account all these different states as part of the ensemble of bodies. So in a way, you've averaged over that effect, and you may not see it, but that is certainly a legitimate thing to look into, and it would be a check. I agree with you on that. Other questions? Yes, sir.
How is your work being received in the scientific community, and what kinds of objections are you running into?
I've presented this work in St. Petersburg, Russia, Cologne, Germany, Canary Islands for Spain, in NPA, Natural Philosophy Alliance, AAAS, in the United States, and the secular community has been more receptive than the creation science community. Isn't that interesting? And yet, it's revolutionary in their midst. I'm not saying they've said, "Oh, this is it, let's do it." They haven't done that, but they invite me to speak at their meetings. They publish my papers in their proceedings, and they give me the favorable program positions. I was able at the AAAS meeting to present 8 papers. No one else presented 8 papers. No one else presented 4 papers at that meeting. So you can see they thought my work was significant. They're going to publish all 8 of those papers in the proceedings. And so that's a good sign. And in Russia and Germany and in Europe, there are groups that are tired of quantum mechanics and relativity theory. They feel that they've been known to be illegitimate theories in science long enough, and they're working to replace them. So those type organizations, invite me to speak, and they hold regular scientific meetings, and they have a lot of, like, I'm a guest of the Soviet Academy of Science in St. Petersburg, Russia. Well, I'm not a guest of the American Physical Society in this country, but over in Russia, their highest scientific body is receptive and lets these papers be presented and receives them favorably. So that's interesting. But we have many other things going on in the creation movement besides just science. We come from different church groups, different orientations. We have certain ideas that are kind of we're wed to regardless, if you know what I mean. So that makes it a little more difficult. Scientists don't have quite the variety of things that they're wed to as we have. Why do we have so many denominations in Christendom? Well, we can't agree on something, and that can even spill over into creation.
You're not saying that a scientist's bias would affect his perception?
Well, it certainly does. In fact, I'm publishing a book right now on the universal force, and I'm going to introduce it with, we need to get rid of religion from science. And when you read the book, you'll discover the religion is the atomistic worldview, which is there is no God at all costs. And so there are certain ideas that cannot be given up in science. And I'm going to document those ideas and show what they are and show that they're embedded in the theory of relativity, the theory of quantum mechanics, and the quantum electrodynamic theory of elementary particles. And so I'll show that it caused us not to make progress because we couldn't see anything else but that. And that's kind of the opposite of what we usually get it the other way around, that we're too religious and we can't do science because we're too religious. And I'm showing that they're too religious and they don't do science either. And
It's not a matter of being religious, which religious you are, right?
yeah, it's which religion you follow. And so.
Yes, there's goodies downstairs. Don't fall down the steps. I think we should quit. My brain is full.